Welcome to Ground Control. Several of you expressed a desire to see a tutorial on RF frequency tuning, so we're going to do just that. I am in the process of reviewing the RadioLink D gyro. I'm going to put it in a wing, and I purchased 3 of these Radiomaster R81 Nano SBUS receivers, and I'm going to be doing a review of those as well. And the protocol that it uses requires frequency tuning, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to get this little tutorial put together. Now, frequency tuning, if it says that it requires frequency tuning, there are several protocols that require that. If it says that in the multi-module documentation, I highly suggest that you do it. You don't want to have a fail-safe or a flyaway on your aircraft because you didn't do the frequency tuning. So the first thing I want to do is just read to you the heart of the documentation, so you'll get an idea of what the process we're going to do on the transmitter. And we'll be conducting this on the Radiomaster TX16S with this Radiomaster R81 SBUS receiver. Okay, so it says, certain protocols require tuning for optimal performance. In some cases, it's required in order for the protocol to even bind. Frequency tuning is specific to each multi-module and is due to very small variations in the RF components. Frequency tuning typically only needs to be performed once per protocol, as there is usually only a small variance between the values found for multiple receivers of the same type. Once known, the same value can usually be used for all receivers which use the protocol. Okay, so I want to give you a tip here, and this is just from my experience. The Pioneer Aero's Pioneer micro-bush plane uses the same protocol. It's the, I think it's the Frsky D subprotocol D8. And both of those require frequency tuning, but they're 2 different receivers that are using that protocol. My suggestion would be that if you're going to use different receivers using that protocol, for every different type of receiver that I was going to be using, I would be doing the frequency tuning. I should only need to do it once for all 3 of these receivers, since they're the exact same receivers. But the frequency tuning, the median number that you're going to derive from the frequency tuning is going to be different, at least in my experience, with a different manufacturer using the same protocol. So just keep that in mind. That's what I'm going to do. For every different manufacturer of receiver that uses that protocol, I will be conducting that frequency tuning procedure. Okay, so the general rule is that if the RF frequency fine-tuning option appears in the protocol menu, frequency tuning is required and should be performed. Completing the frequency tuning procedure ensures the radio and the receiver will have the strongest possible connection, which is why you want to do it. If you change the frequency tuning value, it is best to rebind the receiver. So once you complete that frequency tuning procedure and you found your median number and you've got that set in your fine-tuning box, your number there, make sure that you rebind to the receiver. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, the procedure can be performed in serial or PPM mode. Is easier in serial mode because the effect can be observed in real time. So this receiver provides me with an RSSI output. So as I am changing the number on the frequency tuning, I can see the RSSI either increase or decrease, and it will also alert me, the voice will alert me when I have lost RSSI signal. So the way that I'm going to perform this procedure is I'm going to find my low number by changing the frequency number below 0 until I lose RSSI signal. That will be my low number. And then I'm going to move the number and past 0 into the positive number territory until I lose RSSI signal, and that will be my high number. And then the high number less the low number divided by 2 will give you a median number. So, and it states, if the receiver does not bind and RF frequency fine-tune option is available for the protocol, change the RF frequency fine-tuning value to either -40 or +40 and try to bind again. If binding is still unsuccessful, continue to try higher and lower values in steps of ±40 until the bind succeeds. Make sure you try the whole range of RF frequency fine-tuning values, -127 to +127 if you haven't been able to bind. So, my receiver was able to bind up at 0 before I modified the frequency tuning number. And I haven't done the frequency fine tuning yet to find the Goldilocks zone on that RF frequency fine tuning number. That's what we're going to do now, but it did bind up right away. If you try to bind to your receiver, that option is available, and it doesn't bind, go to +40 and then try to bind again. If it doesn't bind at that number, go to -40 and try to bind. If that doesn't work, then go to +80 and try to bind. And on up the ladder, you know, from 80 to 120, -120, +127, -127. If you haven't bound at that point, then I would say you've got a different issue going on. Okay, so anyway, now that we've gone over the process, I'll bring the camera in here. I've got my little test cell set up, and we will find out what my optimal frequency fine-tuning number is on this receiver. So I'll bring the camera in. I'll see you in just a minute. Okay, so my receiver bound up without having to adjust the RF frequency tuning value. So now what we need to do is find out where it loses RSSI, and I'm getting RSSI returned from this receiver. So, and I will get a voice alert when I lose the RSSI. So what we're going to do is go to our frequency tuning, and we're going to find our low number. And so I'm going to start off at -40. So let's go to -40.
Telemetry lost.
Okay, so I've already lost.
RF signal critical.
I've already lost.
Recovered.
I've already lost it. So let's go back to 0 and then.
RF signal critical.
Okay, and then let's go back to -20. I'm going to cut it in half. Alright, and it says I still have RSSI. So let's go to -30. And it shows I still have RSSI. Although my controls are intermittent at that point. 31.
RF signal critical.
32. It's showing my RSSI at 0.
Telemetry lost.
Okay, so let's go back again and confirm that.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, let's go back to 32.
Telemetry lost.
Lost. Okay, you have to go back again.
Telemetry recovered.
Alright, now let's go back to 31.
RF signal critical.
Okay, so our low number is -31. We haven't completely lost signal, but it's critical at that point. Okay, so
Telemetry lost.
okay, so that's our
RF signal critical. Telemetry recovered.
okay, so that is our low number. Now let's find our high number. We'll go +40.
Telemetry lost.
Alright, let's go back.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, so we're at 34. We lost it at 40, so let's go a step at a time. 35. 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42,
Telemetry lost.
42. Let's confirm that.
Telemetry recovered.
Okay, let's go back to 40 again. 40, 41, 42,
RF signal critical.
43, 44.
Telemetry lost.
Okay, so 43 plus 43 is our high number. We add those two numbers together, we end up with a plus 12. And then we divide that by 2, and that gives us 6. Okay, so 6 is going to be our median number.
Telemetry recovered.
And it shows RSSI at 100, 99 to 100 at 6. So, and that gives us 37 above and 37 below that point. So that is our median number. Okay, so now that we've completed the procedure on this receiver, we know that my Goldilocks zone for my RF frequency fine-tuning number is +6. That's the number I'll use for all 3 of these receivers. The number that I used on the, if I remember correctly, the number that I used on the Arrows Pioneer, which uses the same frequency but completely different receiver, was -24. So quite a difference between that one and this one. I mean that's a span of 30 points on that fine-tuning scale. So like I said, my suggestion would be that if you have a different manufacturer receiver, if the receivers aren't exactly the same, then I would do the process again, and don't forget to bind back up to them again once you get that number set. Alright, so I hope that helps you guys do the frequency fine-tuning, the RF frequency fine-tuning for protocols that require it. I do highly suggest that you do it, that you don't skip that. Make sure that you do that and find that optimal number to use so you have the strongest signal possible between your transmitter and your receiver. It's really pretty straightforward. It's a pretty simple process. It takes a little bit of time, but it's worth it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the air.